Hello everyone, my name's Evan Muse and I'm up here in Bangor University and I'm going to be speaking for the next 20 minutes or so about the affordances of the doubly constructed bookshop, or the bookshop as an interface. This is coming from a variety of things. It's useful to know before we get started that before working in studying publishing in bookshops, I did a lot of work with virtual environments, particularly with game design. And what I want to do here is bring in some of those game designing ideas to the idea of the bookshop, because game design is largely about creating a space where people can play or engage or do all sorts of stuff. But you're always controlling what that space is, what game world is. The player can only see as much of the game world as you show them. So the interface is what controls it. But also there's two slightly related terms we'll be getting into, interface versus user experience. So for instance, user interface is what the place looks like. User experience, the UX, is what you can do there. And I'm going to be separating those out quite a bit here. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about something called the law of requisite variety, which is a cybernetics law. The idea is that only variety can destroy variety. The world is a big, complicated place. So we do all sorts of stuff to reduce that complication, to make it simpler so that we can understand it, so that we can work within it. This is the law of requisite variety. You have to reduce the complexity of the world, or you have to enhance your own impact on that world. I'm going to be looking at something called the mechanics, dynamics, aesthetics framework, which is popularly used within game design. I'll be talking about that. And I'll also be looking at the idea of meaningful locations, location, locale, sense of place, that combination of things. But what I start with is way back in 1891. This is a gentleman named Adolf Grohl, who wrote one of the very first books about running a bookstore. What it was all about. Basically, he was describing what the user interface of a bookstore should be. And he sort of came up with arrangement and the care of stock. He's looking at the buying of the stock, the system and the order of the stock. So the books that are there, how do you get them in there? What books do you put? How do you allow people to find them? But also the space. It should be a clean space. It should be aesthetically pleasing. It should be a browsing space. So he's creating a world that people can enter into. But he's not telling you what you can do there. He's not creating potential things for a person. This is not a this is the user interface rather than the user experience. User experience being what you can do within the world. This is what the world should look like, presenting it to the people. And this was very much the way it's still running. This is a more recent 2012 from the Booksellers Association. Again, they've shifted to a large degree, but they're still thinking, how do you make a place that someone wants to come into, that keeps running, that runs smoothly, but not what you do when you get in there. Yeah. So let's switch over to this idea of the doubly constructed. Place of doubly constructed, the idea is that you can create a thing. A bookseller, for instance, creates their bookstore. They, like Raoul suggests, they pick out all the books that they think people are going to want to buy. They put them out in a way that's easy for people to find things. They keep a clean and well-lighted place, that sort of stuff. The buyer, the browser, the visitor comes into the shop, and they don't necessarily see it the same way that the bookseller does. They're looking for different things, they're thinking about different things, they're constructing a meaning from that location, which is why the same shop, somebody comes in and they'll think, oh, I feel right at home here, this is just comfortable, these are my ideas, my thinking. And other people come to the same shop, oh, this bookstore, I'm scared to death, this is not where I belong. It's very intimidating. Very, very different reactions to the same place being constructed twice. So coming to the idea of the sense of place that's being created here. The idea, Cresswell and others have put together this idea that A sense of place is created by the location. It's geographic, where we are in space and time. The locale, the way things are set out. So a bookshop in New York City laid out the way Growl is suggesting it be laid out in a particular way, with the books nicely ordered, etc., creates a sense of place. The things that are happening in there. But these places are all going to be very, very different. This is the Book Mill, is a bookstore in Western Massachusetts, and its motto is books you don't need in a place you can't find. So their sense of place is being created by what's in there, the locale, the books you don't need, and the location, a place you can't find, and that's creating a sense of place for them. But I'm very interested here in the interface, because the bookstore, I think, is a way of seeing something else. So technically an interface, most of these are coming from the gaming world. Not something that appears before you, but rather a gateway that opens up and allows passage to someplace beyond. So it's an information space. It tells you what you can do and what you cannot do. And Shell's idea, the game world only exists in the mind of the player, made possible the game interface. So there's the game world and the game interface. And the game world is magical. It exists in, as I said, it's a sense of place, but the interface is where you're at, what you see of it, what you're allowed to see of the information you're given about it. So one nice way to look at it is this little model here. So here I've got a person, a visitor, or a bookseller. I have an interface, which is a bookstore, and then I've got that world beyond, that thing that Shell is talking about, the game world, what am I interfacing onto, what sort of environment is this giving me access to? And this model is coming from Stafford Beer's viable systems model. This is where requisite variety comes in. This is a picture of Stafford Beer. I would love to have met this guy. He literally looks like an interesting character, cybernetician. But he's looking at variety and how you can manage variety. So he came up with what they call the viable systems model. A viable system is the relationship between a person or management organization and the world, the environment they are dealing with. So a person or management organization is only so complicated, but an environment can be massively complicated. So he's saying that you have to have something in there, an interface, that's either going to decrease the complication of that world or enhance the power, the complexity of the management person. Okay, so taking that back to my little model here, this again is my interface, this is the environment. I need to take whatever this person's doing and amplify it so it has a stronger force within that world that's there. I also need to attenuate, reduce the complexity of that environment that I'm working into. So amplifying and attenuating. And the interface is not the world, it's just what you see of the world. It's a really important gap in between these two. So to give you an example, let's go to the Amazon website. Amazon gives you access to book catalogs, essentially. They've gone beyond that in recent years, but essentially this is talking about the number of books that are out there. So you can amplify and you can attenuate your access to this. So what does that mean? Particular examples. The one-click. This is Amazon's patent on the one-click, which is now gone out, but they had it for a good 10 years or so. And the idea is that with one click, as a user, I just do one thing, I click once. And that means that the order is placed, the server system receives purchase information, server system then assigns client identifier, server system sends it. All this stuff happens because I clicked once. So I've amplified the effect of what I've done, and I've made huge changes within the world of that book catalog world and the Amazon world. On the other hand, the book catalog is massive. It's immense. It's hundreds of thousands of books in there. You cannot know it all. So you need something to reduce that complexity, the variety of what's in there. So Amazon has tools like the products related to this item. You pick a book and it will say, oh, you other people, if you bought that book, you're gonna like these other books maybe or not. That algorithm is gonna be there. So it's doing those two things. It's amplifying in just that one case, and it's attenuating in that one case. So it's doing other amplifications, other attenuations, but those are decent examples of them, I think. And here's the way it works. This is the MDA framework. So mechanics, dynamics, aesthetics. This is a tool, design tool that game designers and other programmers do use in game development. The idea is that you have, on one hand, you have the designer who builds the mechanics. These are the affordances of the space, the things that a person can do in the space. Yes. So, for instance, if you have a hammer, then you can hit things. In that space, I've got a hammer, I can hit things. That's my mechanic, a hammer. The dynamic, I can hit things. It's the things I can do with the tools that I've got. The aesthetics is doing that sort of, the things you're allowing me to do are going to shape my experience. So I create the mechanics, allows people to do things. You don't always use a tool the way it's supposed to be used. I've often used a screwdriver to try and open things up. And a screwdriver is meant to turn screws, but as a user, the tool mechanic of the screwdriver allows me to turn things or to lift things, and my aesthetic experience is different than the way when I'm trying to turn a screw. Okay, so basically the location locale are the rules of a game world. So we're talking about sense of place, the location, locale, two of the three things that make up a sense of place. They create the potential dynamics of the experience within that space. When you engage in that space, you start creating that sense of location, that aesthetic experience. So Amazon Online Store, the mechanics, Amazon One-Click and related products are two of the mechanics. The dynamics, with Amazon One-Click, I can make a swift, easy payment. With related products, I can instantly see what I want. The aesthetic, oh, that's quick and easy, that's efficient, that's a dependable resource. I can see what's going on, I get some good advice coming there right away. So that's the sort of aesthetic experience that I'm getting because I can do these things because they've given me those mechanics. Yeah. Of course, we're doubly constructed. So same mechanics, same dynamics, but the aesthetic can be very different. Swift and easy, corporate agree that I can be absolutely turned off by whatever is being offered to me here. So there is very much that relationship between the two. It is not automatic. But as a designer, I'm trying to create something that's going to be aesthetically pleasing. It's going to encourage my people to come back in various ways. So taking this to offline, away from Amazon to a standard bookstore, this is a floor plan put together by White and White back in '92. Independent bookstore planning and design, a very interesting book about the layout and design by these architects. And you can see in this particular physical space, you've got an entrance on the left where it says 1, then you go down, and these number 5 here are all the different things you can, the bestsellers, and you go down the hallway and you can visually you can see what you're looking for. Sports and travel are here, and health and psychology are there. There's a place for kids to play, children's books in the back, so it's more spacious. And you can see it's a very specific design. Good lighting, good signposting, clear navigation, find what you're looking for, you feel safe. So it's a commercial space, okay to come in, you feel welcome. Yeah. There's the cash registers in the middle, so you have to get all the way up there, so you're encouraged to see things. So it's creating a particular aesthetic because of the mechanics that it's providing. Alternatively, this is another one from the same book, the Earthling Bookshop in Santa Barbara, California, which has a fireplace in the middle. But also it's grouped around a central location where people sit and stop. So you come in, and over here are the cash registers. So you're encouraged to go around. 2 and 3 are cash registers. The play place is back in the children's book in number 8, back in the children's section. So again, a nice safe place. But it's about gathering. And you can see everything is turned towards a gathering. So the fireplace, a circle, and a cafe. So 17 is a cafe. So these are some of the mechanics that are being put in place. The dynamics of that: gather and talk, relax and talk. It's a communal space. Welcome to stay. It's a very different aesthetic to the previous one. So this one, the zone and cluster here, is giving you an environment. This is what the environment that you know from that interface. The only thing what you see, it's book culture, book community. That's the sort of place it's creating from those mechanics. Whereas the open plan bookstore is an environment of popular and local interest books. There's nothing, it's a focus on find the book and leave, essentially. Whereas the other one is about finding the book maybe, but talking to people, gathering together. So the mechanics are being described in very different places, and those mechanics are creating a representation in the mind of the visitor of a different type of world, different type of environment. So here's another one. This is a quote from a online reviewer site. "We love to walk over that wonderful bookstore with the musty smell, creaky floors, books squeezed in every nook and cranny. Felt like embarking on a hunt for mysterious treasure." So this is the experience someone's having, embarking on a hunt for a mysterious treasure. That's the aesthetic experience of this store. The mechanics: creaky floors, books squeezed into nooks and crannies. Those are 2 of the mechanics that have been designed here. You can do things with these. Creaky floors gives you a sense of where you're moving around, gives you a sense of place. Very specific sense of place. Book squeezed in the nooks and crannies means that you're going to find stuff all over the place. You're going to get lost for hours there, which means you're embarking on a treasure hunt. This is another bookstore out in Western Massachusetts. Some of the things, the way this woman, Nancy Dole, describes this store: "My dollar books are selected. Those books on the outside shelf, if people put them in and she doesn't want them there, she will take them out." She's designed that. She looks at things that have come before, puts them in a context. So the object doesn't change, but the context does. She's trying to stay true to something. A decent previously owned book that has information that they want. Might not also be very attractive, could be a first edition, but it's not what I'm about. She's talking about previously owned books. So curated books, books placed in context. You can talk to the owner here. Those are mechanics. Those are the things you can do. You can access curated books. You can do things with the curated books. You can see the books in context. You can talk to the owner about the books, making it, as she says, understandable to younger buyers. So younger buyers are going to find this useful. They're going to find an appeal to it. There's things that you can do with those books in that curated space of the $1 book, for instance. Creating an aesthetic experience. You're excited about books. Books as object of desire is what you're being presented as. That's sort of a world. Third one here, and this is these previous 2 were indie books. So this is a third indie bookstore, but this is something from Doreen Massey, the chance of space. Such a space entails the unexpected, the specifically spatial within time-space is produced by that, sometimes happenstance, sometimes not, arrangement in relation to each other. It's a result of there being a multiplicity of trajectories, of variety, the potential variety. And one of these things, these 2 bookstores, this one and this one as well, bring their general indie bookstores. They're not specialist, they're just indie, general, and they are creating a space of chance with the things that they amplify and the things they attenuate. They create an understanding that, a sense of a world where all sorts of things are possible. The treasure hunt idea. Mhm. So again, the bookstore as the interface is creating a world, a sense of a world with the space of chance type world. I was recently in Porto, which is home of the famous Livraria Lelo, which was oddly an odd bookstore. If you haven't been there before, I've only got a couple of minutes here. But you buy a ticket to get in. Once you're in, this is a very strange picture because there's no one in there. When you go into that bookstore, it's packed with people. The books are mostly either Harry Potter books, because there's a connection to Harry Potter. Own print books with Livraria Lelo on the front cover, boldly stated this is by them. Or when I was there, was general literature. Great literature, classic literature, only the best. This was the winners of prizes were on the shelves. So it's a very specific type of experience. You could not move freely. So with the entry ticket, you can get in there. You can celebrate Harry Potter. You can celebrate Livraria Lelo and the literature that's there. But you're trapped in there. You're trapped in a beautiful space. This fantastic space. But it is a very specific aesthetic experience that you're getting. You're trapped within a beautiful space. The beautiful space is linked to literature, so they're amplifying or attenuating the idea that this is a gateway, an interface to a fantasy world of some sort. In sharp contrast, this is my last of my main examples, is the cultural interaction space. These are bookstores which are specialized. Feminist, black, Christian, communist, socialist, travel, etc., etc. And they're a very specific type of amplification attenuation going on in these. So, borrowing from Kathy Little's idea that cultural interaction spaces, in general, she's saying that the mechanics that they have are staff and booksellers, the books, the physical space, the atmosphere, the interactions, customer and audience. All those are the different mechanics, slightly different in each one because they're going for a different type of audience, specific. But the dynamics they create, interaction, observation, experimentation, identity formation, development of group solidarity. So those are the things you can do with the stuff that's in those stores. And the aesthetic experience tends to be belonging, a safe space, empowerment. So again, just a slightly different way of trying to understand how the aesthetic experience of the bookstore is being created. And that aesthetic experience is creating a sense of place beyond the interface. The bookstore is the user interface is the bookstore. The user experience is all the things you can do that are to interact with the environment that this is the interface onto. So leaving it there, hopefully I'll see you all on Friday when this actually happens. I've gone over a couple of minutes, sorry about that, and some of the references. But look forward to seeing you all. I hope you enjoy Sharp 2023.